MAME Bonsai. What are they? Are they this big, 15 centimeters, 6 inches? Are they any good? Why don't I like them? Well, guess what? Today we're going to have a little deep dive into MAME Bonsai, my understanding of them. We're also going to take part in a little bit of a tripod collaboration with Rack from the US in Budget Bonsai. I'm going to try and create a Cascade Mame. I'm going to try and create a root over rock Mame. And on top of that, I'm going to find out just what Rack has sent me from the US. Because I tell you what, he spent a fortune on postage. It's going to be worth it. Hi, it's Xavier. Welcome to my bonsai retreat. The sun is beaming down, and do you know what? I wasn't going to do anything to do with Mom. I wasn't going to do anything at all to do with MAME Bonsai. In fact, it's not something that features on my channel normally. In fact, that's something you associate with Jason Hanrahan in the Bonsai Garden. But in front of me, I've got a few selections. I've got this little one here that, gosh, thumb size. That's a little apple, and that's probably the smallest pot I've actually got. Now, as I say, going by what Peter Chan classifies the different sizes, I think it's in the Art of Bonsai, one of the first books I bought, he sort of broadly breaks them down into up to 5 centimeters, which he calls, I think, thumb or thimble bonsai. And this lovely little apple, which was grown from an apple seed way back in, gosh, 2015, I think. Very, very small, and I've got it in this, probably the smallest pot I've got. Then we also go up to what I establish more as a MAME Bonsai. We've got this sage, and you can tell it's sage because it's almost got the skin-like look of the leaves. It looks like cells of your skin. And then I've got this sycamore, and many people say, sycamore as a MAME Bonsai? Well, guess what? You've seen this many times before. We'll get 4 sets of leaves coming out, and in about 6 weeks' time, 8 weeks' time, I'll cut the big leaves off. And then for at least 6 weeks we're going to have these lovely small heart-shaped leaves. So I love doing things like that with trees that size. But there's always a big problem. It's that rule book. Why do we have so many rule books? Because truthfully, if we're trying to get a MAME Bonsai that looks correct, it's a miniature tree. It's just a miniature version of what we've got in our bigger pots. So relatively speaking, we do need the trunk to look aged. We do need to look at there is some degree of ramification to it. In other words, in proportion wise, it looks like an old tree. I'm not going to use the word stick in a pot, but you know where I'm going with this. Ultimately, if you like it, call it what you like, enjoy it. Now there's one other one I've got going that I have been trying to develop as a, probably now I know, as a thimble or a thumb MAME Bonsai. Should we have a look at this? Because again, it's another big leaf variety. Now again, this oak has been growing for at least 5-6 years. It's got quite a substantial trunk to it, and right now I'm growing 2 leaders out. And the difficulty with this, to create this realistic MAME, or in this case thimble or thumb size, is I need the thickness of at least one of those to at least be half the diameter of the initial trunk. That's what makes these so difficult, and that's why they take just as long as any other form of bonsai. So I mentioned a few things. We're going to try and do a cascade, and I picked up this lovely little Cascade ceramic while I was visiting Herons last year. Now with me, I find the easiest thing with cascades, because you've got to wire them out, I like something that's got berries or fruit on it. So it's either going to be a Cotoneaster or perhaps a Pyracantha. Worst case, I'll go for a Chinese elm. Now clearly I need to try and find myself a thimble size example species of tree. Now I haven't just got the oak to look at, I've actually got something else. I've potentially got this this apple, which again, same batch as that one, which all I do with a lot of these where I'm unsure, I just let them continue to grow as single sort of twisty wisties. And I try to control them by, at the end of each year, I'll literally cut them in half. And the good thing with apple, like many trees like the Chinese elm and stuff like that, they will bud back absolutely brilliantly from a lot lower down. So they're ideal for MAME or thimble. But I've also got, again, you know, I've got absolutely hundreds of Chinese elm cuttings that just sit down the bottom of the garden. And there's 2 here that I've got that, again, every now and then I go down and just chop them right back and see what happens a year later. And again, a few gems that I found down the side of the greenhouse. So that gives me a couple of different trees I can pick that I think will at least give a start to a reasonable Mame in terms of proportion and scale. Got my pot. Obviously I need my thimble pot, we'll have a look at that in a minute. But also I mentioned that great word which I love the most, root over rock. And I know many of you will have seen when I went up to the Orkneys, managed to come back with a few. Well, I found two that are thumb size and they've got really interesting crevices on them. I'll get to show you those in a second. And I'm going to try and find one of these Mame species that'll make a root over rock as well. So we're going to cover three different things in this brilliant episode on Mame Bonsai. But first of all, I think we need to find out exactly what Rack sent from Budget Bonsai. Tripots. Interesting name, interesting challenge. Quite a few other people have been doing it. So I don't know, watch out for the hashtag tripod or something like that. But either way, there'll be more than just me doing it. Now, whatever you do decide to do, it's always great to be prepared. So make sure you've got your pots available. You know, the last thing you really want to be doing is putting your small little thumb-sized Mame into what you think's a reasonable-sized pot, but actually, if you look at that, would totally and utterly dwarf it. So again, you need to make sure you've got a selection of pots before you go ahead for this. And as I say, there's a vast array out there. Go online, whatever, or better still, see if you can get someone to send you one. With Mame or thimble bonsai, there's different problems that come with it. Apart from the scale of the tree in the pot, there's also the issue with the scale of the soil. I use the same mix. It's still going to be my inorganic mix, but instead of 4 to 5 millimeter particles, this is like 1 to 2. It's like sand almost. So you need to have a smaller particle size to help get that drainage going. As well as that, you need to find a securing method. You've seen me use the bridge technique many times when there's a single hole, but there's also various other methods, and we'll cover that as we go through. And finally, you really need a method to keep them alive, and that we'll get to right at the end, because when you've got a selection of trees this big, what's the single biggest problem that occurs, especially as it heats up? More of that at the end. Now, I'm the first one to put my hand high in the air and say, you know what, I'm spoiled. And I'm spoiled because I've always insisted on taking cuttings or scrabbling around little garden centres and finding those things that are dying, that are weeny small. And here I've got more selections. All of these, there's a little, 5-inch ash. That's about 4 or 5 years old. I've got this hazel. I think that came courtesy of Dawn Isaac. Every now and then she'll drop me down a load of little things like this. This might make a very interesting Mame. I've got my, looks like a Cotoneaster. Again, they'll grow out very long, and these ones, ideally, get them down there and you've got yourself a nice Cascade, but I may well actually just cut it here and grow it as traditional. So I like to have a lot of options. Now truthfully, the biggest bit of advice I would give, and it's something that certainly the longer I'm in this hobby, the more I realise and recognise that it's the best, if not a long way of doing it, is you want to try, no matter how small your whip is to get the root system developing, and whether that's a case of putting on a tile or whatever. I've got this little trident maple cutting that's been in here. I think it starts off in a pot like that for the first year or two while the cutting established, and then last year I actually put it into this pond basket. Don't need a pond basket. I've seen people like Nigel Saunders and many others quite happily throw them in plastic pots, whatever, and truthfully they develop just as well. I like pond baskets because it's all the rage. They're also cheaper, and truthfully, when those roots come through there, you do get division happening and ramification of your root system. And for a good Mame bonsai, we want a nice healthy root system that's already going to support the tree in this microclimate environment. And that's a mouthful, isn't it? Don't want to say that when I've had a few bevies.
I'm tired of this, Grandpa.
Now I am going to say straight away, when Rack made this offer to me, I didn't even expect the postage costs that were associated with it, and he's taken that all upon himself, and truly That's expensive. So a big thumbs up and thank you to Rack. And as a result of that, please have a look at his channel, Budget Bonsai. See if you can support him. We've all started from those stages. Some of us are still there. So we've got here, I don't want to turn this to a big unboxing. Xavier, thanks for participating in the Budget Bonsai Tripot Challenge. Look, Rack Cross Studio. Life is art. Very profound. We like profound things, so that's good. And then what I did is I had a look in the box and, well, there's a sticker by the look of it. Again, that's beautiful. It says Budget Bonsai. Do you think I need stickers? I need stickers and t-shirts. But I didn't see the pot. And then it occurred to me that I just tossed this to one side as though it was just packing. And should have realised that in fact there should be, hopefully, and everyone knows I can be a wee bit clumsy. I can see, oh my gosh. Right, this is going to be a challenge because that is literally, if you look at the size of my thumb, that's half a thumb size. Gosh, that is basically a thumbnail. I've never made something this small. So these are tripods and handmade, all sorts of interesting styles. I quite liked, he's got one that's got wings on it and I really like that. So that's challenging, and I bet you want to know how I'm going to secure a tree in that. Okay, well that wee thing there definitely fits within the Peter Jan category of thimble or thumb size, up to 5 centimeters in height. That's barely 3 centimeters. I couldn't get my thumb in there if I tried. I know, I've got helicopters coming down to tell me, is that seriously a pot? That is challenging. And I think we'll have fun finding something to go in there. Gosh, it can't really be more than about half the size of that apple. So I'm going to go back into my pile and have a look and see if we've got something suitable for this tripod challenge. Now, I've already recognised why I don't like doing thimble or that sort of size Mame trees, because the difficulty is finding a specimen that's, one, got the size proportions right, but also isn't going to have isn't going to have one of those root system that goes absolutely nuts. A bit like, can you imagine throwing a larch in there or something? Ash, they have quite a extensive root system, so it means you're going to be repotting this thing every 2 weeks, I reckon. Perhaps I might need to go for more a cutting style, a trident maple. I fear the root system on that oak is going to be too big. Maybe I've got a little micro Fuji cherry. Now they have quite a small refined root system. They have quite a refined root system. That wascally wabbit. Or I've even got a Genko. This is a Genko cutting, by the way. Very successful. But again, they've got quite a thick and cumbersome root system. Now I know you put stuff into smaller pots, the root system should micro-manage itself. But the only way I'm going to know is to pull these all out of pots, have a look and see what we've got in the root system, and make a decision after that. Worst case, I've got a funny feeling I'll be bringing out one of my Chinese elm cuttings. That's always easy. Now, the ash is a possibility. It grows quickly, like the weed, but what I do like about the ash is you already get quite a fibrous root system there that will mean it supports, it's just the size. So I mean, I potted that up in that little pot last year, and look at that fibrous root system. We've got a big thing there. If we do that, I mean, you look at that for a root system. That's nice. That's ideal. But I think it may be, we want to get rid of that knobbly bit. Okay. That was most of the root system. Still got a few. That's all right. That's all right. Don't panic, he says. Panicking. Well, that was totally unexpected. That was a nice root system. Should we put this in some water and think about it? Although now, that will definitely fit in there. Do you know what? I'm not sure the bonsai world is ready for some of the surprises that I present to you. Reassuringly, it has actually still got quite a serviceable root system, and bearing in mind I'm going to cut that in half, that will actually work out alright. But just goes to show, too much time looking at that and not looking down there can cause all sorts of issues. The Ginkgo, which, lovely, it's rooted, but that's a big wide base. It creates big thick roots, and it's a relatively prehistoric species, so we don't really want to put it in a challenging environment. And again, I'll say that straight away. If you're looking to put trees into a challenging environment, i.e. shallow pots or micro pots, then you want to make sure that the tree is able to actually handle or deal with it. And I'd say to you straight away, if you're looking at things like dawn redwood, if you're looking at things like ginkgo, anything like that would be a big no-go straight away. While I was actually looking around, I found a few other micro pots that I actually have. I might be able to use these too. This one's quite nice. Okay, well, I've got them all laid out, and there's a wide variety there. I can see myself doing a mixed planting of Mame trees. I've got a few pots in the background. Probably my next smallest is this one, and I think, I don't know about you, but I think that with a little Fuji cherry in it, I think that might work out perfectly. So that's what's going in that. Clearly, any of them would go in that. That has come out really, really well, the hazel, and I've cut back some of the branching, and I'll probably take this whole one off here as well, actually. But there's a reasonable little root system in there, but again, it's definitely not going to be tripod size. So I really am going to be looking at putting the ash in there, and I think that will make for an interesting thing, because obviously in a micro pot we're going to have something that have leaves that come out 6 inches themselves. So that's what we're going to put in there, which brings us to the next challenge. Obviously we're going to get a thimbleful of soil in there. It's going to need repotting regularly, but also it's going to need somewhere where perhaps a root can come out the bottom and continue to feed the tree. More of that at the end. We need to be able to secure it in there. Well, the good thing about it being a single whip is that we can use one piece of wire. Let me show you how. All we need to do is make sure we've got a length out the bottom, and then very, very carefully wrap the wire up there. I can't imagine that I'm going to be trying to induce any movement. There's just a gentle bit of movement anyway, but all the pruning on this is going to be based on bud points which we've got all around it. I need to put this down through there, and then I will twist up at the bottom. So I suppose really all I need to do is put a little bit of soil in there. I know some people have got these little teaspoons, so we've got that little bit in there. Need to get those roots nicely contained in there. I don't think I'm going to be getting myself a one of those nice plate nabaris. I just want to stuff all those roots in there, so to speak. So there we go, we've got it there. And then all we do, find a point that's it. So with that secured into the wire, I'm now going to carefully push down these roots and put in some more of this incredibly fantastic soil. I'm going to lay bets. Put down in the comments whether you think the ash tree roots will split the pot. I hope not, but lovely glaze. The glaze on this is incredible. That I presume you've used your fingers like that to close it tight. Right at the beginning I talked about proportion, and as you can see the size of that, we really don't want the tree being much taller than what there. So the good thing about ash is there's a bud there, and there should be one on the other side somewhere. There's another one there as well, and two up there. So I think what we'll do is we'll take the wire off there. Got a nice, just a little touch of movement, and then I think we will do that. So then, with that being cut there, we're hopefully going to get those buds activating. Just put a bit of sealant on the top. So I've got a little bit of sealant on the top there, a little bit of movement with the wire. In terms of the scale, the tree is probably 2.5 times the width or the height of the pot, so it doesn't look outlandish. I think the root system is enough to be able to support that. So overall, I think that is going to be my my contribution to the Budget Bonsai Tripot Challenge. What do you think? And apologies for those of you who perhaps wanted to see more of how I did the repot. Truthfully, the way I do any repot is exactly the same. Tease out the roots, cut them right back to just the bare minimum that you need, and then secure the bottom of the pot. In this case, I'm using this wire technique, and a little bit of wire around it just to help with the support. This is going to be the Cascade. It's a little bit rough and ready right now, but I've fed the roots into the base here, and all I need to do now is fill it up. So the process is exactly the same. All that's changed is the actual design application of how I put it in there. The securing system is the same, a single wire coming from the base. It's nice and messy, but just so long I've got a good set of roots in there. Now I do need to do a little bit of work, just trying to get the Cascade to look a little bit more realistic. Without actually breaking the... And as I say, this is Chinese elm, so it's absolutely easy to work with. You see there, just started to put a little bit of bend on that. I mean, that's very right angle, but as that goes on, I'll actually put it further like that. In fact, there you go. There's a little lovely Mame Cascade Chinese elm. Anyway, let me clean this up and bring you back, because then after that we do need to do that root on rock. Now the root on rock one is going to be more difficult, because I need something that's definitely got a much more established root set, and something that actually the roots grow quite fast, because I need the roots to grip and grab the grooves that are in these little rocks. With that in mind, my choices are really Chinese elm, juniper, or trident maple, classics for root on rock. And the good thing about it is that we've got all these lovely buds down here, so I can actually cut it quite small. But potentially maybe the oak. So I'm going to have a look at the oak root system and see what it's like. And I think this is probably the point to raise right now, is that when you're doing Mame or anything micro size, you are generally going to be doing some form of repot or root control every year. And you'll see why there's two options. One is to take it out of the pot, but the other option will become clear when we get to the end of this episode. Well, unsurprisingly, the oak roots were very well spread out, but certainly nothing that I could wrap around a rock. And so I'm going to have to go for the easy system. I say it's easy because, truthfully, I can already see, I mean, this has only been in this for a year. I'm probably going to find there's a rock already around it. I've got loads and loads of fibrous roots, and that's 1 year, and I can just find a couple of, look at all that fibrous root growth there. I'm sure that I can find something that I can wrap into one of those. Come do it already. So that's going to be the rock. I just need to get the right root in there, and then we'll probably wrap it with a load of cling film. But what you can't see is up there. There's a very, very dark cloud. I knew we had far too much sun. Well, I've got a big apology to make. That rain didn't stop for about 6 hours, and that was dirt free and the roots akimbo at the mercy of the weather. It really hammered it down. I couldn't get out there. I found an opportunity later in the evening and I managed to wrap the roots around some rock. It's only been there 9 hours, so let's just have a quick look and see what I've done. But hey, you've seen me doing root over rock. That's probably the best video to look to see exactly what I've done here. There's been one difference though, and I'll show you. What I've done is very, very similar to rock like that, where you've got a groove or channel down here. What I've done there is 2 of these roots here fit exactly into that groove. Got some nice spare roots coming out either way, and the difference is where normally I might use cling film, I was in a hurry. I used some grafting tape. It's nice and stretchy, sticks to itself, and I just pulled that, wrapped it around there very tightly, and just put a wire there to hold it in. And then all I did is quickly dumped it in some soil. So that's probably all that's left to do. Dump it into the soil. Okay, now much as I'd love to put it in this lovely little green pot, I've got to recognise that I actually want a lot of root growth beneath, and that just isn't going to give it to me. Be patient. Pick a pot that's going to be appropriate for the task you want. The task I want for this is to allow it to grow loads and loads of roots. The more roots it grows beneath there, the tighter the ones that are existing into the cling film will actually wrap in. So I'm actually going to give this the opportunity okay, so we've got the rock in there. Okay, so really all I need to do now is wait 2 years, and then we could probably have a look and see just how well that's gripped. Should I cut this? Well, truthfully, I've actually played around with the roots a bit, so there is certainly less root structure there. What I will do is I'm quite happy. Oh, well, there's a couple of buds down here and here, so I'm just going to cut there. Just put a little bit of sealant on top, and then hopefully what we're going to do is we're going to get lots of buds lower down, and then I'm going to let those run. That does mean there's less stress on the existing root system, which has been squeezed up, so it's only going to need to feed 2 or 3 of those buds for the growing season. Right, well, I kept talking to you about this wonderful system to keep some of these Mame and thimble Mames alive. Do you want to join me and find out exactly what I'm doing? I'm sure you've all seen these. These are basically containers or sub-growing beds for our Mame. And inside there I've just got some fine-grained pumice. I'll probably go and find some moss later on in the week, which I'll be able to spread around them. And the whole idea is that when your little wee Mame grows its roots all the way to the bottom, rather than dying out because it's got no more space, you can leave it, because what'll happen is the roots come out the bottom, they then go into the soil, and from there will spread out. No different than when if you have a plant pot on the grass. And that way it continues to feed it, continues to keep it healthy, and it allows the uptake of moisture, because when that dries out you're going to have a lot of moisture still in this. So I am now going to place these in here. It also gives it a bit more stability so they don't go falling over. We've got another Chinese elm there. I think that one is the Ginkgo. I think that's the hazel. So we'll put that there. We've got the apple, the oak. Probably a little bit of a big pot for a container like this. We've got this lovely little Fuji cherry. And again, by sitting it in that fine grain, it keeps it nice and secure, because we've also got this very challenging ash in this tripod. I'm going to say now, thank you very much for offering me this challenge. Gladly accepted, and hopefully that fulfills the requirement. Again, got this little apple as well, and Well, you may or may not have seen this, but I do believe this might be a forsythia. So we'll put that in there. As I say, that will water naturally, and all things being equal, this time next year or at the end of the year, I'll be pulling these all out, getting rid of the weeds and clipping them right back. And they should be fine. So, I hope you've enjoyed my foray into Mame Bonsai, whether it be the little small micro thumbs with the tripods from rack of Budget Bonsai, or whether indeed be the thumbs going bigger and bigger until we actually get to something that's nearer the sort of 6 inches, 15 centimeters. I've really enjoyed this. I'm going to go collect some moss and finish this off. The next time you'll see this, as I said, is probably going to be in about 9 months' time, and hopefully we're going to see loads of growth. If you want to see more about how I've actually put roots on rock together, that's the video to see. Otherwise, all the best, happy bonsaiing, God bless, cheers.